It's almost 9 a.m. on Saturday. I'm heading out in about an hour to meet a friend, and I thought I would sit down and have a cozy catch up with you. It's been a busy week, but lots of fun things have happened, so I thought it would be fun to do a bit of a recap on what's been going on in the pen and stationery side of things. I do have an agenda because this video might end up being a little bit of a mix of some older clips that I filmed last week. I was attempting to film a video where I was trying to document one nice thing that I was doing for myself in a busy week, and I got about halfway through the week and then I just didn't have an opportunity to continue filming. So I might share some of those clips because there were some things in there that I wanted to share with you. And then the other part of the video is going to be a recap of the Pelikan Hub, meeting a fun new stationery friend, and going to Scriptus in Toronto. And I'll talk about a new pen that I picked up, and if we have time, then I'll also show you some of the inks that I picked up as well, because I did pick up quite a few inks this weekend, and I'm still not sure how I feel about how many I actually got, but let's just get into it. The first thing that I want to call your attention to is this beautiful mug. I can't tip it over because it's full of coffee, but this was a gift from Leanne from Leanne Likes. I just love this mug, and it's really thick, so it keeps your liquids warm, but you can also hug the mug, which I really like to do, and it doesn't burn your fingers, so I love it. Okay, I have made an agenda for myself. So I think I'm going to start by talking about doing like a recap of last weekend, because there were a lot of fun memories. And then depending on how long this clip gets, I will insert some of those clips that I filmed last week. Before I move this off to the side, I just wanted to call out these beautiful little stickers. So these are from Moonlit Journal. And Moonlit Journal very kindly sent me some of her amazing stickers. And you can see that I've already been using some of them. But these stickers are from her Tokens for Self-Care sticker sheet. And I honestly felt like I needed the reminder. This past week has very much been a balance of taking it one day at a time and getting through a very busy period, but also trying to practice self-care. And something I know that I am prone to doing when I'm really busy is not making time for anything that feels indulgent. So that was the whole intention, actually, of the video that I originally filmed for last week, which was trying to just find pockets of time every day to do one nice thing for myself. And I did start to film it at the beginning of the week, but in all honesty, sometimes those nice things were like making myself a cup of hot chocolate and sitting in the dark, playing with inks, and it wasn't really something that I felt like setting up my filming equipment for, and I also just didn't have the capacity or energy to. The experience really reminded me how challenging it can be to try to prioritize yourself. Even though I know it's good for me, and even though it's something that I try to work with my clients on to help them create space for it, I really want to acknowledge how hard it can be. And it was really difficult for myself to practice self-compassion and try to say, it's okay to spend 20 minutes at the end of the day playing with inks. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. I've got my TN here, and as a side note, this thing is getting really chunky. I've talked about it in other videos before, but I tend to struggle to work in books that are too chunky. So I'm really trying to figure out what I want to do with my traveler's notebook next year. I like the concept of having the vertical weekly as my weekly memory keeping, and then having a separate insert for more standalone things. And then I always like to have a sticker release insert just to save things when I need to, and also to add stickers to my journal. But this is getting really unruly, and I don't like how chunky it is. When I work in my weekly, I actually do take it out. So in case you're wondering how I work with this insert is I do take it out now because it's a little too unwieldy, I think, to work in now in the book. Also, I just wanted to shout out Moonlit Journal again. When she sent me the sticker, she also sent me this really beautiful postcard. Okay, this is actually a little out of order. Sometimes I do try to do these events in chronological order, but I did order these differently because of this beautiful message down here that I wanted to keep close to my photos. Last Thursday after work, I had the immense pleasure and privilege to meet a new stationery friend. You might recognize this person in the stationery community, in the journaling community. I have been a big fan of her videos for a while now. She reached out to me a little while ago to say that she was coming to Toronto for business and would I like to meet up. I tend to be very shy, but when she reached out, it was sort of like an automatic yes. I knew that I would be a little nervous to meet someone, but I also really didn't want to pass up the opportunity. So we ended up meeting at Planta for dinner. Planta is a vegan restaurant in Toronto. I saved the subway transfer from the day that we met, and I just wrote about it here. I have a photo of her, but I didn't ask her if she was okay if I shared her face on my channel, so I've just covered that up. But yeah, so that was just an amazing dinner. I think we ended up talking for over 2 hours, and we really talked about like every topic. Like it was a wide range of topics. It wasn't just about journals. It was just such a lovely time. And I don't think I've mentioned who it was. It was Ale from Alejandra's Archives. We originally were going to do a journaling meetup, but we ended up just having dinner instead. And we ended up signing each other's journals. So she wrote me the most beautiful message down here. And I love that I have this memory of our hangout, and I feel like I have like a, after watching her videos, it's so cool to have like my own little Alejandra archive in my journal. So I think that was really cool, and I think I might start asking other people to sign my journal now. I don't know, it never occurred to me before, but what better way to memorialize hanging out with people who get journals and who get stationery as much as you do. So this was just such a wonderful memory. It was a wonderful hangout, and it was a great way to kick off what was a very social weekend. So LA, thank you for reaching out. I'm glad that we got to meet, and I hope you come to Toronto again for another business trip. And then on Friday after work, was the Pelikan Hub, and I went to the Toronto Pelikan Hub. There were 2 Pelikan Hubs in Toronto. There was one that was kind of more downtown, and then there was another one that was a little more in the East End. So I went to the one that was in the East End, and it was at the Fox and Fiddle. I will admit I was feeling very anxious about going. I find large events really overwhelming, and I don't really know a lot of people personally in the pen community in Toronto. I know there are some monthly meetups that happen, and I haven't been able to make it out to one yet, but I think I'm going to try in the future. But I ended up meeting up with Tiffany. The event, I think, started at 6, and I think we got there at around 6:30, 6:45, and There were no tables. Yeah, so we ended up sort of standing the whole time, but I did get to meet some pen friends in the community, so that was really nice. Tiffany introduced me to a few. And then I also met Bucky from Bucky's Baubles on YouTube. So Bucky, if you're watching this, it was really nice to meet you. Then on Sunday, I went to Scriptus, and this was the third year that I went. So the show, I find, is just really busy. When I first got there, I was able to meet Gaylin from Fountain Pendulum. As I was walking around, I saw that someone was selling some discontinued Pilot Iroshizuku inks. And one of them I didn't recognize, but the other one was Tsukushi, which is my all-time favorite. I just made an assumption that that bottle was going to be really expensive. And because I already had a bottle, I thought, I don't need to be greedy. Also, I don't really want to spend, a ridiculous amount of money on this ink. So I'm just going to walk away. I told Tiffany about it, and we ended up making our way back to the table. And just to torture myself, I asked how much the Tsukushi had sold for. He sold it for $10 Canadian. I don't even want to convert that into US dollars. I don't even want to know. But I was in shock. I just can't believe that he sold it for that little. Like, obviously he wasn't trying to make a profit. This was a retailer. So I guess it wasn't like an independent seller. To him, it was just discontinued stock. And I guess I forget sometimes that some people don't attach as much value to certain things as we in the pen community do. I missed out on getting a bottle of Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi for $10. But we eventually ran into the person who did get the bottle, and she had never tried it before. I think she'd been looking for it for a while. She also offered to give us samples, which I don't need because I do have my own bottle. So I'm actually glad that somebody was able to get it who's going to enjoy it. I guess I feel like I'm confessing to you all. This retailer was Laywines, which is a Toronto-based retailer, and they had a bunch of different inks in the corner of their table that I guess were kind of discontinued, or they were just trying to move out. They also had a few other inks, and everything was priced at $10. So I did go ahead and impulsively purchase 2 bottles of the inks. Khaki is one that I have looked at in the past online. I do not think this is a document ink. I remember when I was on this quest to find a green ink that I liked, I remember really liking this color. So I did go ahead and buy this for $10, even though I really don't think I needed to. And then I also saw this ink, and I really can't explain to you why I impulsively bought this ink. I did look it up online. It looked fine, but I really don't need any more brown inks. To be honest with you, I think this was just a reaction to missing out on the Tsukushi. And again, I'm not saying that I'm super proud of this behavior. I'm not a perfect person. I do make emotional decisions sometimes. This is an example, I think, of feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed in a very crowded place, and I don't know, scarcity mindset. So I have these 2 inks. We will swatch them out and take a look. And I think I don't mind getting ink bottles so much because I like being able to trade ink samples. I'm going to swatch these out to show you what they look like, but also know that I did not buy these with intention. I was not mindful about it. I just reacted. So yeah, this is perhaps one of the purchases from Scriptus that I'm not the most proud of. This is a purchase that I made weeks before Scriptus, but somebody was selling a nearly full bottle of ancient copper, and we had agreed to meet at Scriptus. So I also picked up this bottle, and I love this color. So I'm happy to have such a big bottle of it now. And the other few inks that I bought. So I actually bought the show ink. This is the Scriptus 10th anniversary show ink. I actually bought it for a friend who doesn't live in Toronto, but she told me that she actually had someone else pick up the ink for her. This isn't really my favorite color, but I'll swatch this for you, and I'm thinking that I might either pass this along to somebody else who really wants the Scriptus ink that wasn't able to attend Scriptus in person because they were only allowing you to buy one bottle per person. Or again, I can just give out ink samples. And the last two that I bought were Colorverse Brunch Date. So I haven't opened this yet because I actually still have a sample of Brunch Date that Tiffany gave me. This was a kind of impulse purchase before I bought those DeAtramentis inks, because I really loved this ink, and this was the only ink that I was planning on buying at the show, if I'm being honest, but that isn't how things ended up. And then I also got this beautiful color. This is called Yuki-usagi, and we were sitting at this table trying out different pens from other people, and this particular ink was inked in several pens, and I just fell in love with the color. So I'll show you this ink as well. And the last thing that I picked up at Scriptus, which is, I guess, the biggest purchase, was this very beautiful Franklin-Christoph pen. I think it's called the Model 20. Let me see if I can get that closer to the camera. Hopefully you can see that. It's got these beautiful swirls, and this is an exclusive collaboration that I think they released a few years ago, and I've had it in my cart many times, but I've talked myself out of it because, one, I don't need any more pens. I will acknowledge that I definitely don't need any more pens, and I just didn't know anything about this brand, even though I pretty much trust and love everything that Wonder Pens, releases. And so when I was in the line at Wonder Pens, they had all these pens out on display, and I was actually eyeing the pocket version as well as this larger version. And in the end, I went with this one because this takes standard cartridges, and the pocket version would have used the Kaweco short cartridge, the foldable one. I just thought this one would be a little easier for me to use, but it actually is an eyedropper pen as well. So you can eyedropper this with ink if you want. I got it in a fine nib, and as soon as I got it home, of course, I inked it up in Khaki. And I'll just show you. This is what it looks like. Very lovely. So actually, this was the first pen that I tried to ink up without flushing it. I always flush my pens usually, and then I wait for the water to evaporate before I ink it up. But I was impatient, and I'll actually show you so that you don't make the same mistake that I make. This is what it looked like. And I was really disappointed at first. I thought, oh, this is like the worst version of Khaki I've ever seen. But I decided to flush out the pen just with water, and I let that evaporate. I waited a day, and then I inked it up, and this is what it looks like. So this is a really silly mistake that I made, but I guess I just wondered, I don't know, sometimes I just want to ink up a pen right away, and I just want to skip that step. But I'm not going to ever skip that step again, because that was a very big difference. But yeah, just as a reminder, this is the pen in Khaki, and I would say it's pretty good. It's a steel nib. And then if you want to see how it compares, I mean, I also tested it out against a bunch of different pens, and you can see like it's pretty saturated compared to a lot of other pens that I had tried with the same Konpeki. So I'm very happy with the saturation of this pen, because I feel like it's saturated, but you can still see some shading. I mean, I always like to see a little bit of shading, because I know this is a shading ink. So I don't actually like it when it's so saturated that it's all one color. I prefer it to not be that way, which is why I usually prefer like the Pilot Custom A23. I think that one is a great example of, you can just see all the different variation of the color. And I would say like this one is almost like a little, like it's definitely on the more saturated side, but you can still see some variation. And I think in certain inks, that's going to be really lovely. With a pen like this, I'm glad that I was able to pick it in person, because I think if it's something like this, it's all one solid color, I don't feel like I need to see it in person. But when the pen body can vary like this, it's something that I do want to pick in person. And I'm really glad that I was able to try it out. And I think that's a thing with Wonder Pens and this Franklin-Christoph. It is available on their site right now, but every other time that I've thought about buying it and wanted to be mindful and just wanted to think about it, it would always sell out. And I find that kind of unfortunate, because these pens aren't cheap and they aren't decisions that I want to make impulsively. So even though it felt like I kind of made it an impulsive purchase at the pen show, I actually think it was better that I got to see it in person, as opposed to trying to decide online, potentially not liking the design that you get. So I'm very pleased with this design. Oh, I just noticed it says Wonder Pens here, or WP. That's cool. And it's really cool because it's actually like a snap cap. It doesn't quite have the click that other pens do, but it's almost as convenient as this click pen. So, and I think you could, take uncap it with one hand. I'm not going to do an in-depth review about it, but I think there are already a few online. And I also have to thank Wendy Sue from Fountain Pen News, who spoke so highly of Franklin-Christoph, but also this specific model. And we talked about it at length earlier this year. And I was going to get one, but I just waited too long and then they all sold out. So anyway, beautiful pen. Before I close this off, I just wanted to call out a few stickers. This is another one of Moonlit Journal's beautiful stickers. This is from her cafe journaling set. And I've just used another one here. And this is from Nicole Josephine, which is a Toronto-based illustrator, and I love her stickers too. In terms of writing sample, this pen is currently inked with Diamine Syrah, which is an ink sample that I got from Wonder Pens. I'm really into red inks right now. I wanted to try doing some ink swatches of the inks that I picked up this weekend. And I also wanted to show you the new notebook that I am using for ink experiments, I guess. I guess you could call this an ink journal. I'm not really putting labels on it for now, but my last video or 2 videos ago, where I sort of graded myself on my hobonichi purchases, really was eye-opening for showing me like how many blank notebooks I have accumulated. And it really inspired and motivated me to start using the notebooks instead of hoarding them and being precious about them. So I had heard that the paper in the new notebooks from this year were not great, and I wanted to put that to the test, because if it turned out that these weren't great for fountain pen inks, then I could repurpose them for more functional uses and leave it at that. So the other night, I did do a bit of experimenting. The first thing I want to say is, as a relatively new user of the Hobonichi notebooks, I'm kind of surprised at how this cover is already like not closing properly. So I'm just wondering, is this a common experience for others who have used the Hobonichi notebooks? Because I guess I had assumed that they would be similar to the Hobonichi Cousin or the A6 in that they would kind of close properly, but I'm kind of shocked at like this is just after one day of using it. So I'm just curious if anyone else has experienced that, or maybe it's because of how crinkly the pages are already, because I did add a lot of ink to them. I don't know, let me know. As usual, I left the first page blank. We talked about this in another video. I have a problem. And the first experiments that I did were, I just tried making a little bit of a, I don't know, like a square pattern with different inks. I was just using some of the samples that I kind of had lying around that I thought might be interesting to pair together. And I think I like this concept, but I don't really love all of these colors together. So I think it was a great idea in theory, but maybe I need some more lessons on color theory or something. But anyway, in terms of ink quality, I mean, it's kind of hard to say with swatches. They do sometimes bleed through, and I think that's just the reality if you're like putting a lot of ink onto a piece of paper. I will say that when I was doing these squares, I did notice there was some feathering. I don't know if it'll be as obvious now, but I think particularly in this Tono and Limbs scent of lavender, and it is a scented ink. This was a gift from another patron. It's a beautiful ink and it smells amazing, but I wonder if scented inks tend to have maybe a little more tend to bleed through, because I feel like I've seen this before. It's hard to tell now, but I think the purple did end up bleeding a little bit. So yeah, we'll see. And this was just kind of an experiment with the same inks on this side, because Leanne, when she sent me the mug, sent me a condiment cup. And I think I'm going to channel Leanne a little bit in today's ink exploration, and I'm going to try using this to create these beautiful circles that she is so well known for. So I'm going to skip a page because you can see that there's a little bit of ink bleed through. Because there was some bleed through, I'd like to try to avoid having bleed through on all the pages. And I'm going to borrow another blotting paper from my cousin. That way I can have one on both sides. I think I'm going to start with the one that I'm the most excited by, which is this Yuki-usagi. This is like this beautiful gray blue. And I just love Sailor inks so much because they tend to have so much color variation. It's just the best. So right off the bat, it looks like this beautiful blue, but it kind of dries and it's kind of like a gray blue. It's stunning. Okay, and for the squares, I'm just using this muddler that my friend Wendy Sue gave me, and I don't have like a specific like pattern. I just kind of go randomly with what feels like it might be right, what I feel like doing. So I think maybe this time I'll try to maybe do a little less ink. I think I was perhaps a bit too heavy-handed with the ink last time. So let's see how that goes. Let's try this khaki color. I mean, it almost kind of looks like Inoho a little bit, I think. It'd be good to compare it to that. I don't know. What do you think? I know this is a DeAtramentis ink, but it's labeled as Laywine, so that's what I'm going to put down. Well, I think that's a really pretty ink. Be interesting to see how it actually looks in a pen. Let's try another DeAtramentis. This is Terra di Siena. Okay, very similar color. Interesting. I mean, I wonder if it'll even look different on this. I feel like I just bought basically the same color twice, but anyway, let's not beat ourselves up too much for poor decisions that are made. Okay, next let's do this apricot that I got from the Pelikan Hub. Looks like it's a very light color. Okay, perhaps next we can do this Penonia, I think it's called, Scriptus. This is what the bottle looks like. What is this called? This is called Tdot Teal. Okay, let's do Colorverse Brunch date next. Okay, and then I think next I'll do, maybe I'll try a little bit of this Sailor Tea Time. I don't want to use too much of this sample because I do want to use this in a pen, but I'll just try a little bit of it. Ooh. See, between these two, I much prefer this color. That's beautiful. And then the last one we're going to do today is Ancient Copper. What a gorgeous color, honestly. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself for how similar those two colors are. I know they're different, but maybe they'll look more different in a pen. I'm not too sure. The other thing is that there is some feathering happening. The Pelikan especially was very feathery, but I don't know if maybe there was a lot of water in my pen, or maybe it's just a very watery ink. I'm not too sure. You also see some feathering with the Laywines and the DeAtramentis, but I do think I've heard before that these two are quite like wet inks, so I'm not sure how I feel about these colors, but anyway. Diamine Ancient Copper is stunning. Japanese Tea Time, beautiful. Definitely love this ink. This is right up my alley. Not a fan of this Tdot Teal, and love Brunch Date, of course. Such a beautiful ink. I think I might almost prefer that in my Hachimanjia pen over Strawberry Chocolate. I'm not too sure. They're both beautiful inks, and I think Strawberry Chocolate is a better match for the pen, but I just really love this pink, and I've really enjoyed writing with it. So I'll let these dry, and I'll come back and we can take a look at the swatches, but that's going to have to be when I come back because I have to head out now. So we'll come back for a quick look in a little bit. But yeah, these are the inks that I picked up over the past weekend. Oh, and how could I have forgotten to mention this Sailor Shikiori Yuki-usagi? I don't think that this does it justice. I'm going to have to ink it in a pen and show you. Actually, let me see if I have an example of it. Oh yeah, so I tried a bunch of really, really fine, extra fine nibs. They were incredible, and I just had the best time. Let me see. Yeah, so here it is. Gorgeous. And then here it is again. Just a really beautiful ink. And I can't wait to ink it into a pen. I love that there's a little bit of gray and a little bit of blue, and it's just a very moody, beautiful ink, and I think it's going to be great in a pen. So out of all of these, I think this is a favorite, this one, this one, this one. That's all for now. I'll come back when these are dry and we'll take a closer look. Okay, I just got back from the Toronto Stationery show. It was insanely busy. I met my friend at around 11:30 and we waited in line for 2 hours and 15 minutes before we were able to get inside. We originally set a limit to waiting for about half an hour and seeing where we were, but then half an hour turned into an hour, and then that turned into an hour and a half, and at a certain point we were close enough to the front that we just decided to wait it out and go inside. That was crazy, but it was a great show, and to the credit of the people that were keeping track of letting people in increments, it wasn't as crowded and overwhelming as the first year that I went, so it was still busy inside, but the very first year that I went, it was so packed that I felt really overwhelmed, and I actually didn't end up seeing a lot of the artists that were there because I just found myself wanting to find little pockets of less crowds. Anyway, I'm about to lose daylight, so I wanted to quickly come on and show you how these turned out now that they've dried. So as a reminder, this is Sailor Shikiori Yuki-usagi. This is Laywine's Khaki, and I think this is a DeAtramentis ink. This is DeAtramentis Terra di Siena. This is Pelikan Edelstein Apricot Achat. This is a Penonia Scriptus Tdot Teal. This is Sailor Tea Time Japanese Tea Ceremony. This is Colorverse Brunch Date. And this is Diamine Ancient Copper. And on this side, this is kind of how they have turned out. And as for the paper, I will say some of the inks were feathering, like this Pelikan, you can see here, it was feathering pretty heavily over here. I think maybe what I might do after this is I might get a dip pen. This was written with my Kakimori brass nib, and I wonder if I used a finer dip pen that better mimicked a fine nibbed pen. I wonder how it would end up looking. This is what it looks like dried. I think my favorites are still the Ancient Copper, the Sailor Tea Time Japanese Tea Ceremony. I love Brunch Date, and I really love how this Sailor Shikiori Yuki-usagi, you can tell like it does in writing look like a gray, but there is a bluish tone to it. And I think depending on the pen that you ink it up with, there's a little bit of that darker blue that comes out. It's such a beautiful color. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions about the inks here. And as for the paper, I would say I'm still divided. I think maybe I'll try doing some longer writing to see how the pens fare. But yeah, so far I think I am finding some of the inks are bleeding a little bit, but it's hard to say if it's just normal or if it's the paper. So undetermined for now. I'll have to do some writing samples to see how that goes, but I'll do that next and I'll report back on the paper. So far unsure, but it definitely is fun to have just jumped into this book without overthinking it. I think that was really my intention, was instead of trying really hard to figure out a layout and to figure out something that I could be consistent in, I just wanted to jump in and play. And I feel like I accomplished that. So that is the ink. Those are the inks. A really quick update on the hibino. I will do a more in-depth video on this in the future, but I did want to share a fun update, and that is I have completed the weekly setups for my vertical weeklies. So I've done the entire book and it feels really good. It's not as neat as I thought it would be. The original plan was to practice my numbers and make them all really consistent and beautiful. And they're definitely not consistent. I think in the beginning I was adding a few more flourishes, and then by the time I was over here I kind of stopped doing those. But I'm really happy to have gotten that done. And what I'm doing now is I'm just working on some of the layouts in the beginning pages. And I will definitely come back with an update soon to show you how all of that has turned out. But yeah, it's been really fun to kind of work in this book and just almost like hype myself up for moving into this in 2026. So far, I haven't really experienced any issues with the paper. But I mean, I'm only using 2 different pens. The colors that I ended up choosing was Sailor Shikiori Tokiwa Matsu for the numbers. That's in my 1.1 stub nib. And then the brown is DeAtramentis Sepia Brown. So this is a document ink, which means if I want to, I can highlight over it. So I'm really excited about that. So I will share more updates in a future video, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek. And the very last unplanned update is just as I was on my way out today, I received my physical copy of Lofi-Ghosts by XOXO Lore. When Lo mentioned that this might be the last time that she prints physical zines for a little while, I decided to treat myself to a physical copy. So I thought we could open it up together and take a quick look. And then after I finish this video, I am going to make myself a cup of tea and I'm going to eat a pumpkin cookie and I'm going to read my physical zine. So this is the gorgeous wrapping with her signature pink, and I love all the little details like this heart sticker as well as this really shiny washi tape. And I'm definitely gonna have to save this beautiful sticker. This is incredible, like it's really high quality. So this is the Halloween special. And I love this whole 90s theme. Okay, I can't tell. I don't want to ruin it, but I think this might be a sticker. This is so cute. This is amazing. So yeah, the paper is like really thick and wow. Okay, well, I cannot wait to go through this. Yeah, this is incredible, Lo. I'm so lucky that I was able to get one of your physical zines. I missed out on the first one, and I'm really happy that I was able to get one of these. I will leave a link in my description to Lo's YouTube channel as well as her online store where you can get either the digital download if you want to read it digitally, and if there's any additional physical copies. These can't be cheap to make. And I know that shipping and tariffs and everything just make this kind of thing not as sustainable, which is really sad because this is such an incredible body of work. And I don't know, something about being able to have this physical copy in my hand and be able to read this without any screens involved, I think just really appeals to me. So I'm really excited to read this. It's Halloween weekend, so I think the timing is perfect. And with that, I think we are finished with this video. Hopefully it was interesting for you. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you're doing well. Let me know what you got up to this Halloween weekend, and I'll see you soon in the next video.